Hi everybody, I'm Meaghan Jackson from Joyful Mud Puddles, and today I am so thrilled to be talking to you all about family meetings. Now before we jump in, I just wanted to introduce myself. I am a working homeschooling mom of 3 boys. They are 12, 10, and 5. So I know all about having family and boys, and it's a lot of fun at our house. Let's jump in and talk about how family meetings can open up the lines of communication in your home. Before we get going, I also wanted to remind you to be sure to download the handout that comes with this so you're not randomly scribbling notes. You can actually listen, follow along, right along with me. It is well known that children listen better once they feel heard and understood. As parents, we're always looking for ways to teach our children life skills and characteristics that they'll need when they grow up to be adults. Well, family meetings are one way to accomplish so many things and help communicate as a family. You see, everybody is going to feel heard, valued, and understood. Memories are going to be built, which is fantastic. We're going to work on problem solving, opening the lines of communication, and our children will learn and practice valuable life skills. Things like problem solving, communication, respect, appreciation, kindness, accountability, cooperation. Wow! All this just from holding family meetings. Isn't that exciting? Now, you might be thinking, okay, this all sounds too good to be true. How do I actually set up a family meeting? What's involved? How are we going to do this? In order for a family meeting to be most effective, I really recommend that you schedule it regularly on your calendar and respect that time. The reason is you want your whole family to know that this is important to you, that you value working through struggles together, that you value planning time together and spending time together as a family. And when it's on the calendar, you're more likely to keep that appointment, to schedule other things around it, and to hold that date. It also really helps to set out the agenda beforehand so that family members can add their issues to the list. And I've actually included some sample blank pages for you in the handout so you can print them, try them out, and just jump right into this. So if you stick something like that, even just a blank piece of paper if you have to, on the fridge or a bulletin board, wherever it's prominent in your home, then as the week goes on, anybody with an issue that they want to bring up in the family meeting can add that to the list. When you do that, it reinforces to every family member that what's important to them is valued by the whole family and is important to everybody. We're going to go through this a little more in a minute, but I want to remind you to keep your meetings short and to the point. Another setup issue that you might want to consider is assigning roles to each family member during the meeting. This is great because it keeps everybody on track. It gives them a stake in the matter and helps them have more pride, keeps little children busy as well. So you could do things like, depending on their age, the scribe, the person who's going to write notes, the snack maker. And you could even tie that in earlier in the day and have family meeting day coincide with baking day. So whoever's doing the baking earlier in the afternoon, can you imagine their excitement to be able to share that treat with everybody over family meeting time? You could also have a supply person, a time monitor, a chairperson, so many different roles that you can add. And don't be afraid to rotate those jobs and make sure everybody everybody gets a chance to try those out. So can you imagine, like, the first few times you have a family meeting, maybe mom or dad takes on that chairperson role to show everybody what it's going to look like. But after a while, a kid could take on that role, and that would be very empowering for them and teach them valuable skills that they can take on with them. So you might be wondering, okay, you're jumping in too soon. What is a family meeting? What are we even talking about? What's it actually going to look like? Let's take a look at a sample agenda and I'll explain what I mean. A family meeting can look different for every family, of course. It's a time for you to get together as a group to address problems that you might be facing as a family, go over scheduling, and have some fun together. Each week might be slightly different, but when you have regular meetings, it's a time for everyone to come together, connect, and deal with important family business. So let's talk about each one of these areas in depth, or not too long, but a little bit of time camped out on each one so we can talk about what that would look like for your family. It's fantastic if you can start your family meeting with appreciation and gratitude. It sets the tone for the whole meeting and brings everybody closer together. Appreciation is just as simple as sharing things that you noticed during the week or appreciated about the other members in your family. And you can decide what that's going to look like for you. Do you want everybody to talk about each of the other people? Do we want to just share a little bit what's sticking out in your mind? If somebody's not feeling so appreciative that week, you could also talk about gratitude. What are things you're thankful for in general? It would also be a great thing, which I forgot to add in the slide, is to start with prayer. Because you're coming together as a family, we want to pray together as a family that your time will be such a blessing and that you can connect closer with each other. So starting with prayer would also be a great idea as well. A lot of families get stuck on the appreciation and gratitude, especially if kids aren't used to this. And that might be all your first meeting is. Because again, you don't want to drag things out too long. But just having a time of appreciating one another, thanking each other for, making time in your week to spend with one another. Or, hey, I really noticed, thank you so much for doing my chore for me the other day. Or, I had a meeting, thank you so much for being quiet while I was in my important phone call. I really appreciated that. Everybody loves it when you notice them doing good. And if your kids are struggling in this area, you might want to help by pointing out a few things, reminding them, hey, you guys really played well this morning. That might be good. My boys, if they're really in the middle of a fight, as siblings do, it helps during our meetings to brainstorm all the good things that had happened amongst each other, those good interactions during the week. So sometimes we brainstorm those too. The next thing we want to do is talk about old business, because when we do that, any action items, sometimes in your meeting there might be a specific action item, like someone needs to go somewhere, do something, follow up on that, okay? And even if you haven't, you see, because our time limits on our family meetings, anything you didn't get to this week, bring it on to next week. And bring it up. Even if you feel that issue is no longer relevant, make a point to check in with everybody, because it reinforces again that their issues are important to you and that you're not just overlooking them or making assumptions. Even just that everybody saying, yes, we've gotten over that, gives a sense of closure and relief to everybody. So I still recommend you reiterate it with everyone, anything that has been addressed or that needs to be brought up. don't go on too long, but just check in on old business. The main part of a family meeting, or one of the most important parts, is this problem solving piece. Because as a family, issues will come up, and there's many issues you might want to address. It's anything that anybody in the family feels that you need to deal with. This could be about chores, a fight, a personal issue. It could even be planning. The goal here is to focus on solutions. Nobody's in trouble. This isn't a lecture. This isn't about blaming, and it isn't about name calling and going on about the tiny little details. So leave that part out of a family meeting. If there is a discipline issue that your family is dealing with, try to deal with that separately. And this might need to be broken up a little, but family meetings are really focusing on problem solving and avoiding situations, like coming up with solutions rather than that whole name, shame, blame piece that we all get stuck on. And it really isn't productive. And by harping on that, you're teaching your children. Anything you're doing is modeling it for your kids. So let's move forward and move on with the problem solving. So the great thing is to have one person, first off, have whoever is most involved in this. Let's say it was a fight between two siblings. You're giving the newspaper headline caption. You're not going into the hour-long, he did this, he said that, he did this. No, this is the situation that happened. Short and sweet. Now let's move on to the problem solving. If it's a mom or a dad saying, I really noticed that we need to talk about chores. Here's what I'm noticing. Let's move on. Let's figure out what we're going to do about this. Have one family member write down all your brainstorming solutions. And I like to go around the circle twice because sometimes you might think of something that you hadn't thought of before. Write down every solution. Of course, if someone's getting a really out of hand and too silly, they might need a reminder, but write down all the ideas. More than once, allow for all these great ideas. And then have another, and these are great jobs for people to have. The scribe, because it's in their handwriting, can read it back to everybody. Okay, so we're brainstorming everything, then we're reading it back to everyone. What are all our possible solutions? And then depending on the situation, either you're going to go for a consensus, a vote, or maybe it's whoever is actually most involved. So if it's a disagreement between two siblings, but the whole family's helping come up with solutions, maybe it's those two people who are picking what they're going to use that. And the nice thing is that you want to choose a solution and try it for a while, because this is real life. In real life, we have a problem, we figure out solutions, we try a solution for a while, maybe it's a week, maybe it's 2, whatever set amount of time you want to give it, and then we come back. Put that back on your agenda sometime. Maybe that's your old business that you review last week's issues, and you reevaluate. If it's working, fabulous. Let's celebrate. Celebrate that you've solved your problem. If it needs to be tweaked or make some adjustments, go ahead, add that back on your agenda. There's nothing wrong with that. You are right now, as a family, modeling the real world for your kids in real time, in small chunks that are relevant to them. That is the fantastic part about family meetings. Think about all the times in like company meetings, team meetings, that they have to go to, or they may go to as they grow up. They're going to be ahead of the game because they know how this works, they know how to do it, and they've had a lot of practice. So after we've got to that piece, it would be really great, without dragging this on too long, and you'll be able to decide, depending on the age of your children, how long your meeting's going to run. But if you can do a little bit of time to talk with everybody about your schedule, because we all live busy lives. And reviewing the schedule for the week really helps with rhythm and predictability, especially if you have some anxious children or sensitive children who really thrive on knowing what's coming next. It just takes out a piece out of their worry that where am I supposed to be? What am I doing? What's coming next in the week? So talk about it. No one's wondering what's happening next. It's a great time to work out any scheduling difficulties between calls and meetings and Zoom calls and who's using the internet when, who's driving the car. And also plan in some fun things for your family. Stick in the movie night. Plan a little trip. Find out when those field trips are. It gives you something great to look forward to. And then finally, be sure to end your family meeting with some fun. Those treats that you baked earlier in the day, or a board game. But I encourage you to choose activities that connect. A lot of times when families say family time together, movie night is one of the ones that everyone, loves to pick. And those are fantastic. But I caution you to tie movie night with family meetings, because movies are very passive and nobody's talking and interacting. Unless your family talks through movies, which we totally do. But once in a while, if it's a special occasion, I think that's great. But movie night might be something you plan on your calendar for a different night of the week. What I'm talking about by ending your activity together, that could be card games, board games, and a craft or an activity, going for a walk, having snacks and popcorn, those types of things that connect us together. Or even making dinner or homemade pizzas. I mean, that would be so much fun too. So let's look at some tips to make sure that this is really smooth and fabulous for your family. Keep it short and sweet. Don't turn this into a giant lecture. Family meetings are not the time for that. If you do have something, make sure you make some time for that. That might be an action item. If we get into a problem-solving issue and it turns into a big fight and it's dragging on and it's not taking up the whole family's time, put that off for later. Make that an action item. Say, okay, we're going to deal with this later. I think we need some cool down time. We need some time to think about this. And if you're looking for some ways on communicating with each other a bit better, be sure to listen into my other session. I'm also going to be talking about empathy communication during this conference as well. Some other trick that really helps is to have a talking stick or an object, if you find that that helps your family. Because sometimes, depending on how many kids or their age, everybody wants to share and talk at once. And so you might want to try this out and move your talking stick or whatever fun object. And it could even be a mascot, a stuffy or whatever it is, or your family team mascot. That whoever's holding it talks, and that way you can move around the circle a couple times. We want to focus on problem solving and connecting as a family. Those are your main goals with this time. So if you don't get to everything, that's okay, right? Because you're still a family, you're all still going to be seeing each other. You can deal with other issues as they come up. Family meetings are for connection and problem solving. And like I said, it's okay to come back to an issue next meeting, later in the day, at another time. Mini meetings can happen outside your big family meeting time. If it's just a small, quick thing or you need to deal with it immediately, still, you could use that same structure. Some appreciations, focusing on problem solving, going around, coming up with all the brainstorming, and then picking a solution. So mini meetings can totally happen outside of your family meeting. That's always wonderful. I just want to conclude by saying that family meetings can be a really useful tool to open the lines of communication with your family and children. No matter what age you are, you can set regular times to show appreciation, problem solve, and hold engaging conversations. And of course, don't forget to have a little fun along the way. Be sure to look for my other sessions on empathy communication and parenting in Christ. Look out for the handout that goes along with this so you can try that out with your family, and look for my swag bag item as well. Take care, everyone, and have a joyful day.